Draft Mechanic is a proud member of Punchboard Media. Pull up a chair at punchboardmedia.com. Draft Mechanic, episode 118.
On this episode of Draft Mechanic, we discuss recent plays of Draw Your Own Conclusions, Eco's First Continent, and Thunder Alley. We've got a 6-pack review of Mechanica, which we're putting on tap. We've got a beer primer on Galaxy hops, and our listeners really came through on this overtime final round about culling down their collections. So sit back, relax, grab a pint, and enjoy the show.
You've seen the future and it works to take a mile. You're there. All is for the best in the best of our world.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Draft Mechanic. I'm Jake.
And I'm Danielle.
And Draft Mechanic is the podcast about board games and craft beer and anything we can do to tie the two together.
Here at Draft Mechanic, we like our beer like we like our board games.
Clean like the imminent robot uprising. Clean like the important robot upsizing.
Making big robots?
It's really important to make your robot slightly bigger in Mechanica. Yeah.
Anyway.
Good save, me. Hey, perfect. Our feature today is Mechanica, which is all about making tiny little Roombas and stuff, and totally just about making a bunch of little robots that clean.
Nothing bad's going to happen.
Totally
Don't
fine.
worry about it.
But hey, if this is your first episode of Draft Mechanic, thank you so much for joining us today. You can find us on the internet at draftmechanic.net or on your social medias of choice, as long as those choices are Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Draft Mechanic.
We also have a Board Game Geek Guild. That is guild number 2470. There will be a thread up there for this episode, as there is for every episode. So if we're talking about something and you have an opinion on what we're talking about, or you just want to chime in, that is one of the places you can do so.
Opines, opinions, opinionations. Yeah. Also, we have a Board Game Geek micro badge, which you are free to pick up at the Board Game Geek micro badge store.
I guess you're 8 geek gold to pick up.
We
It's
will
not
give you
free.
the geek gold. We will give you the geek gold, absolutely. But big thanks to Steve Judd, who has picked up a micro badge since last episode, and he has got it in his cadre of micro badges. You can go pick that up. He is micro badger number 111. I
Nice.
just wanted to point that out. So yeah, if you want some geek gold, come into the guild, and we have a pin thread for that, saying it's like come get your geek gold here kind of thing. Yeah.
If you happen to be in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, we also do a twice monthly game night. Our next one is going to be on Thursday, March 5th, which is the Thursday after this releases, at Good Road Cider Works. As it is every month, the first Thursday of the month, we are down at Good Road Cider Works.
Mm-hmm.
Our next meetup after that, we're going to be doing a little bit of a movement. After looking at the schedule for Salud Cerveceria, instead of the third Tuesday of the month, which is generally when we are at Salud Cerveceria in the Noda neighborhood, that's St. Patrick's Day, and they're a bar. They like to use their tables to have lots of St. Patrick's Day patrons. So we're going to be moving to the fourth Tuesday of the month, which is going to be March 24th this month. But next month we'll be back to the third Tuesday. It seemed like a bad idea to have a lot of things with small, absorbent pieces in a place with lots of St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, that is a place to be for St. Patrick's Day, but it is not a place to be for board games on St. Patrick's Day.
No,
so,
sir.
yeah, if you want to go out on a Tuesday night to St. Patrick's Day in your Charlotte, North Carolina area, go to Salud, because why not? Danielle?
I always go to my favorite Dominican-American bar for St. Patrick's Day.
We do, though.
I know.
Danielle, I have news.
Tell me the news.
It has been so long since we had board game news worth talking about on this here podcast, but we do like to go on about the comings and goings, or rather the acquisitions of Asmodee.
Yes.
And here is an interesting one. Asmodee has obviously, over the last 5 years or so, picked up a lot of different publishers. Obviously, Z-Man was one. Plaid Hat Games was another big one. They obviously have Fantasy Flight, yada, 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 so on and so forth. But for once, we have news of somebody leaving Asmodee. It seems that...
This is the second time this has happened.
Yeah, there was Heidelbar Studios, but now we have news that as of, I think, mid-February, February 18th or so, Colby Dowk, the founder of Plaid Hat Games, has reacquired the Plaid Hat brand from Asmodee. So basically, Plaid Hat, the brand and the studio, is leaving Asmodee. Now, what that really kind of means, Colby is obviously leaving, but some of the things are being left behind. Most notably, most things you've heard about from Plaid Hat. So things like Dead of Winter, Mice and Mystics, Stuffed Fables, Aftermath, Battlelands, the Adventure Book games, and Jerry Hawthorne, one of their designers are staying back with Asmodee, Fantasy Flight, and or Z-Man Games. The games are kind of going to be redistributed there.
I wouldn't be surprised if a new studio name comes out of this or something.
Yeah, but we have, Colby is going to be leaving, and apparently they are taking the Crossroads game brand forward. If you think about the games started like Dead of Winter and Gen 7 were the first two Crossroads games, because Plaid Hat will be publishing the upcoming Forgotten Waters in April as their first, I guess, independent studio game, which is their new Crossroads game. So I'm kind of interested to see how that's going to work. Obviously, they have, a lot of plans for that Crossroad mechanic that kind of just stalled out for a bunch of years until Gen 7, but now we have Forgotten Waters apparently coming out about a month from now.
I feel like that's an appropriate name for the Crossroads series because, frankly, after Dead of Winter, which they did beat a bit into the ground with the many, many expansions, I kind of forgot that they were doing more of these things. And then Gen 7 came out, and I forgot about it. So I hope that this one is a little bit more exciting for their sake, I guess.
I'm super interested to see it. I think it's a cool system. I like having that kind of mechanic, and I don't know a whole lot about Forgotten Waters, but I am going to earmark it and put it on my radar as something we might want to look at over the spring, because it looks like an interesting game. It's got, character sheets you write on, and looks like there's some kind of miniature campaigning involved there, and it might not have a trader thing, which would always be good. But yeah, it's interesting. Do you have any thoughts on, Plaid Hat kind of becoming their own thing? This is kind of a weird thing to talk about.
I mean, way to take your ball and go home. Good job.
Yeah.
You did a good thing. You probably shouldn't have done the first bit where you sold Asmodee, but I'm sure that they got a lot of capital and all kinds of benefits from joining Asmodee, although I do have to say most of the things that came out from Plaid Hat after that had a little bit of a quality issue. A couple leap to mind. Spectre Ops.
Oh, poor Spectre Ops.
But I'm hoping that they'll go back to being the Plaid Hat games that they were in, 2014, 2013, when we got Dead of Winter, and it was like the hottest thing that we had seen. Now, we are different people now, too, but I'm excited to see if Colby can make this back into the brand that I remember Plaid Hat being, instead of the one that I have been not buying games from for the last several years.
Yeah, I am actually kind of interested to see if this means we're going to see some kind of a dueling card game, maybe one that had died and is coming back. I wouldn't mind seeing something like Ashes come back up to the surface.
Well,
I don't know if
we've officially gotten rid of all of our Ashes.
True.
So I feel like that bridge has been burned.
Well, I mean, for us, yeah, but I think it's still an interesting game, and I feel like, people are still really excited about that game, and maybe if they came back and supported it, I don't know. It's something. But, obviously, Summoner Wars was huge for them. Ashes was really big for a little while, and it's something that Colby has kind of a knack for, so I don't know. Maybe we'll see something new come out of that. But regardless, I guess we got to see Forgotten Waters coming out in April.
Well, I mean, Ashes was Isaac Vega, and you said he's going his own way.
He did go his own way, and he is kind of freelancing from what we see. Not in a, I'm done with y'all, but in kind of a, you're humming, that is go your own way. Thank you. Well, yeah, we'll see what happens. I am going to keep an eye on this one because it's interesting to see something kind of detached from Asmodee at this level. So that is the news. That's the whole news. I know. Okay. We haven't come out of a news segment in a while. Danielle, can you give us the Kickstarter updates, please?
Sure can. Garinto from Grand Gamers Guild is currently funding at $77,903 of their $10,000 goal with 1,780 backers. This will have ended by the time this releases, which is in
Thursday.
Yeah, I was going to say in 2 days.
Yeah,
so.
We're recording on Tuesday evening, and it's like 23 hours to go. So I wouldn't be surprised if that number also shoots up way high.
Okay, but I mean, it's definitely going to happen. So if you were worried it wasn't going to happen, they're like 8 times their goal. So I think you're safe.
So hopefully if you're listening to this, I don't know if they're going to be doing late pledges, but you can go check that Kickstarter page to find out.
Tumbletown from Weird Giraffe Games is funding at $24,315 of their $9,500 goal with 841 backers. This one ends on March 26th, so you've got plenty of time to go check it out. But don't dally because you might forget, because that's how Kickstarter works. Mm-hmm. I got a notification from my Kickstarter that I had flagged, and by the time I got the notification, I forgot what the Kickstarter was.
Oh, no. I'm guessing you did not back that one.
It was my Anime Children pins, but...
Ah, yes.
So why don't you talk about some new projects?
Well, I have 2 for you, one of which is a game and one of which is not. The first one is the Graphic Novel Adventures Series 3 from Van Ryder Games. This one is well into its funding goal. It's at $45,000 of its $30,000 goal, and this one launched today. as of recording, so wow. It's ending on Friday, March 20th, with an estimated delivery of August of this year. There are 5 books in the series. You can back for $20 to get one of them, $80 to get all 5, or if you want to get the entire series, which I think is 13 books so far, you can back for $225. Comes out to basically $15 a book, which is, I guess, a pretty good deal if you've always wanted to get in on all of these all at the same time. So this is the third series of the graphic novel Solo Adventures, which are individual books that are full of puzzles and, fun storyline and choose your own adventure kind of stuff. And all of them have really awesome, unique art styles. It looks like there's completely different artists for all of these, and every single one of them looks totally distinct. So the titles are Your Theme Park, Lily Van Helsing, Hold Up, or rather, Hold Up. I guess, actually, it's not like they're not like telling you, whoa, slow down. It's like, this is a holdup. Yeah.
That's not even a meaning of those words that I had processed. I was like, okay, they're either lifting things or they need to slow down.
This book is simply about lifting objects.
There have been weirder things.
Metaphorically lifting objects. Pirates, The Cursed Isle, and Sherlock Holmes, The Shadow of Jack the Ripper. The Sherlock Holmes one is actually a sequel to one from an earlier series as well, so if you enjoyed that one, here's a new one with the same kind of stuff. So they all have their own unique art style, new puzzles and challenges and all this fun stuff. I don't know. We've never played any of them. I would like to at some point, but I just always kind of forget to pick them up. And just, I hear a lot of people talking a lot about these things in a positive way. I know Eric Buscemi at the Cardboard Horde is a really big fan of these. He talked about Series 1 a lot back in the day, and hopefully these are also going to be good. I don't know. Any interest at all for you in this kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the kind of thing that you could sit down if you had an afternoon to yourself, or you were stuck on a plane, or you were in a car that you were not driving, then you could go through it and do the game, and that would be a good way to not look at a screen and do a thing. Mm-hmm. I'm not in a rush about it because it's just time that I would spend by myself to do that thing. So,
yeah.
If I get to it, I get to it. If I don't get to it, I guess I did something else.
Yeah. I would say maybe next time we're at a convention, if we see these sitting around on a, on like the Van Ryder booth or something, remind me that I'm interested in checking one of them out. And maybe I will. And maybe I won't. I'll
do my best. That's not like top priority on my things to remember, dude.
Danielle, can't you remember this one thing 6 months from now, please?
Hard no.
All right. Well, Graphic Novel Adventures is going to be going until March 20th, so you can check it out then. Well, I guess now. Not then. Don't check it out then. It'll be over. The other one I want to bring up is not a gaming thing per se, but it is gaming-related apparel. This is Ludocherry. It is a apparel line from some people that have been working on this for, I guess, about 2 or so years now. Funding just launched today, and it just passed their $16,000 goal. They have about 267 backers so far. This one ends on Wednesday, March 25th, with an estimated delivery of October 2020. You can back at a $45 level to get a stylish button-down shirt, or at $65 you can get a skirt that, yes, it does have pockets. And there's a whole bunch of tiers for more stuff or combinations of stuff like that. But this is board game themed yet stylish clothing. The patterns feature board game components like meeples, dice, and pawns, but in subtle ways. There's 4 different fabrics to choose from. Danielle, are you looking up pictures right now?
Yeah, I don't trust when people tell me that their prints are stylish.
They look really kind of a vintage kind of apparel look. Like, realistically, some of these shirts look like flowery J. Crew shirts that may or may not be in my closet already, which has me super excited about it. So there's one that's, it looks like the 2 cherries, but the cherries are D20s. There's one that's kind of a flowery pattern that has meeples involved in it.
Yeah, that flower one is way more subtle than I expected.
There's polka dot dice, and then there's another one that is kind of like a white and blue kind of sketch print, and it has just a whole bunch of Eurogame kind of related symbols. You have pawns, you have meeples, you have victory point laurels, all that fun stuff. But I gotta say, like, as board game clothing goes, this definitely is way classier than I expected to ever see in this space.
I feel like the biggest compliment that I can give this, and I don't mean this in the way it might immediately sound as kind of shady, I'm looking at this on my phone, and I have one of the smaller version of the iPhone. Mm-hmm. It's difficult for me to see that the prints are game prints looking at it on my phone.
Yeah,
which is good because I don't need another thing with just like a giant meeple on it.
Yeah,
because people who sell things with giant meeples on them, I don't need that. But like that's kind of neat. It's definitely a more subtle print.
Mm-hmm. I honestly, I've click the remind me on this one. If I can budget out $45 for a nice button-down shirt, I mean, they look pretty good, and I'm excited to see it. And a lot of people, they sent a lot of demo pieces to a lot of people, and everybody seems to says that they're very good quality. But then, such is the review culture on the internet. Who knows? But they look cool,
If
so
you
maybe
need
that's your thing.
more gaming clothing, or you perhaps need gaming clothing that you can wear somewhere slightly nicer. I can see some of these coming out at Fancy Gaming at like Geekway. With a nice button down.
Or, a skirt with pockets. They're
Yes.
very, very big on the fact that the skirts have pockets.
Dude, it's a thing.
Yeah.
Like, skirts need to have pockets.
All right, well, yeah, Ludocherry up until March 25th, so we'll probably check in on that one next episode. But until then, it is time to go to a break because this is the longest this opening segment has been in the year 2020.
I feel like this is a really unfortunate bump for us to put after that Kickstarter.
No, buy a Draft Mechanic t-shirt. Yeah.
Want to wear your Draft Mechanic pride to your local brewery, board game meetup, or board game meetup at a brewery? Check out redbubble.com/people/Draft Mechanic for t-shirts.
Time to talk about the games.
Sure. First, we're talking about Draw Your Own Conclusions, which is a 2019 release from Social Sloth, which is an imprint of Grey Fox Games. It plays 3 to 8 players in 15 to 20 minutes and is designed by Jay Cormier with art by Tyler Myatt. This is a cooperative drawing game, but you only have one shape, and you have to use it wisely.
Yes, and you don't get to choose what shape you get. It is dealt out to you randomly at the beginning of the game.
So it's entirely possible you have a 7-player game with no squiggly straight line.
We will talk about that in a second. So in a game of Draw Your Own Conclusions, you have a little draw erase board with a little flap up at the top that you're going to lift up and you can write some info on it that I'll talk about in a second underneath that. But at the beginning of the game, everybody's going to get dealt a card that has a kind of shape. You might have circle, you might have teardrop, you might have squiggly line or square or long square. Rectangle, actually, or L-shaped thing. And that is the only thing that you can draw when it is your turn. So the way it's going to work is everybody is going to get a card that has some words on it as well. We're going to roll a die, I believe.
Yeah, the card is numbered 1 to 6, and then everybody is going to be picking the thing which matches a die roll.
So we roll a die, and you're going to pick that. You're going to lift up a little flippity-flappity thing, and in that section, you're going to write what it is. Maybe it is horse. Maybe it is lemonade stand. Maybe it is something far more complicated and
Like
confusing.
roulette wheel.
Roulette wheel came up way too much. Yeah, so you're going to write that word down, then you're going to flip the little flippity-flappity thingy down, and on that panel, you're going to write the name of a person to your right, maybe 1 or 2 spaces, depending on player count, which will be the person that has to eventually guess what in the world the word under your flippity-flappity flap is. Flippity flappity flop flip. That's the new technical term for that. Also, under the name, you're going to write the category which that particular item is taken from to give any kind of help whatsoever to the eventual guesser. And then simultaneously, everybody is going to draw on their little thing 1 to 5 or 0 to 5 of their shape on the big drawing area in a way that will hopefully help explain what this thing is to the eventual guesser. Everybody on their turn will get to look under the flap to see what the actual thing is and then add whatever shapes they think they can to make it helpful. So maybe if you have horse and you have the L-shaped thing, you'll draw some things that look like legs. Maybe if you have a circle, you'll draw a head or eyeballs on that head. Maybe if you have long rectangle, you will draw the body of the horse and then 4 legs as well. I don't know. These are horse shapes, I guess. And after everybody's done that, you're all going to look kind of like nervously at each other, and then everybody's going to simultaneously pass their tablets to the left. Drawing will continue until morale improves or until your tablet reaches the person whose name is written on it. And then everybody is going to, in turn order, look at each other, chuckle a little bit, and then they're going to try to guess what is on their thing while everybody is paying attention to them, trying to will into their brain that this is a roulette wheel, this thing of weird shapes and circles.
It's most certainly not.
It's not it's a roulette wheel, but we don't know what a roulette wheel really looks like. So we're really just hoping you can just kind of read our minds
We
on
do
this
know it
one.
has more than 5 squares, though.
So if you mess up the first guess, you can toss in one of these little point chips you have and get one person at the table to explain what one particular shape that they drew was in hopes that that helps you in some way. And you can do it again a second time if you have another token, again, depending on player count, blah, blah, blah. And hopefully you got the guess right. If you did, then you get points. And if you didn't, then you don't get points.
So Sort of.
Yeah, and it's a cooperative game, so you're all just trying to get everything together at the same time, so points don't really matter, except for on the back.
Yeah, at the end of the game, you're going to take all of those tokens and combine them and then evenly distribute them, and the way it gives you scoring brackets is like, if everybody has at least one token, but not everybody has at least two, then you get this scoring. And if everybody has at least two, but not everybody has three, you get the scoring.
Yeah.
And if nobody has any tokens, maybe try opening your eyes. But
Yeah, but the real points are the horses we drew along the way.
they certainly are.
And that is how Draw Your Own Conclusions work. Danielle, thoughts?
First thought is that this was a review copy, so I do want to say that up
Ding,
front.
ding, ding.
Second thought is I really enjoyed this game. I thought it was going to be stupid when we got it, honestly.
Yup.
It looked silly, and it is silly, but it's silly in a really fun way because A, you're all in this mess together. Because this is fully cooperative and nobody wins for being the best person to guess what the absolute abomination in front of them is, you can all just try to work together. But the things that we figured out about this game that made it really interesting were the little like nuances. As you're looking at the board in front of you, you can also look at the shapes that the players who are going to be able to draw after you have. Or perhaps what the shapes that the people before you that have already drawn and perhaps missed some opportunities had. So, if I have the circle and I don't draw the horse's head, somebody else is going to have to draw the horse's head. And maybe the horse will have a triangle-shaped head because that's the only shape that's kind of head-shaped that we have left.
Pointy horse.
You really have to be aware of your surroundings and the fact that everybody can only draw 5 of their shape. Like I said, roulette wheels, at least the betting part of a roulette wheel, has more than 5 squares, but you can only draw up to 5. Mm-hmm. So maybe we don't want to put the squares on it because maybe it's going to be confusing with only 5. But we don't really have a whole lot to do the rest of the shapes of the roulette wheel. Who's going to be drawing that? How are we going to manage that? Because 36 is more than 5. So that was kind of fun, like trying to see who was going to draw what you were going to use your allotment of shapes for. Maybe this one, you didn't need to do anything. Anything you added was going to be problematic. So I liked that. And I also liked the fact that something that I added could become something very different by the time it got to the person guessing. I know we had one that was lemonade stand, and Tamara had the teardrop shape. And she drew what I thought, and would have bet money, were lemons. They weren't. They were juice. But by the time the context got added in, they were not in the right place to be juice. Mm-hmm. So you could get that fun kind of laugh. At the same time, like, you do get clues if you have a roulette wheel. It's fun to be able to be like, okay, what is this? And you can at least get some direction. And then you get to guess again. And if you still don't know, you get more hint. And you get to guess a third time. That's fun to me. I liked that about it.
Yeah, I really I look at this as the kind of party game where you win by playing, not, any type of actual winning circumstance. You're just going in to have a weird time doing a weird thing and having weird fun restrictions to your drawing. I just it produces funny stories, and that's really what you want out of a party game or a game like this. One thing I will say is that if you don't have some shapes, like if you're playing a lower player count game and you don't get squiggly line or circle, you're going to probably be in trouble, and that's going to be a huge pain in the butt. But then, who cares? It's 15 to 20 minutes and you're going to laugh at the end of it. That's the whole point of the game.
Yeah, I think having the different combination of shapes adds a little bit of replayability to this game. Mm-hmm. Whereas drawing the same card and perhaps if you draw a couple of the same cards and the same number is rolled, you could see cards again. Like I said, we saw some things more than once in our plays. And that sort of takes a little bit of the fun out of it because if you know what the options are, you're more likely to guess the stupid thing when you see it.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that you could have a different combination of shapes, and this is such a high player count game that the likelihood that the same person is going to be seeing the same card again is probably fairly low. I think it just might have been a bad shuffle or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a good bit of variability with those different shapes.
Good deal. Well, yeah, draw your own conclusions. Good times fun. Good draw. Have funning.
How would you rank this in terms of other cooperative party games, like Just One? I've heard this compared to Just One in at least one instance.
I mean, it really is kind of Just One, but with drawing. It's the same kind of thing where you're trying to get everybody to guess one particular thing by everybody's weird brain contributions. In just one, you have everybody coming up with just one word, and this one, everybody can just use one shape, and you're hoping to have everybody guess. I think the one thing that, Draw Your Own Conclusions really does well is that everybody's playing every part of the game all the time, and that's a big benefit over a just one, because in just one, everybody does all their stuff, and then we all stare at one person at the same time, and then that person feels really, really, pointed out. Draw Your Own Conclusions is good because everybody gets, a few seconds of being the person that has to come up with a decision, but everybody is doing it at the same time, so it's less, single outing.
Yeah, and we did have at least one instance when we were playing this game where one of the people didn't know what the thing they were supposed to be drawing was, or they weren't 100% sure. But in this game, there's really no problem if you're a drawer, just looking it up. The only time you're going to have a problem is if the person who's supposed to be guessing it doesn't know what it is.
Yeah.
And since that is only one person out of the whole group, you have a lower chance of that. I thought it was really fun. I enjoyed it way more than I thought I was going to.
Yeah, agreed. Something that'll stick around in the party game bag for a long time.
Cool.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Danielle, it is time for Ecos, First Continent. A 2019 release from Egg, AEG, plays 2 to 6 players in 45 to 75 minutes, designed by John D. Clare, with art by Sabrina Miramon and Matt Paquette. This is a game of tile placement, engine building, bingo, and hippos, I guess.
Always a game of hippos.
There was a lot of hippos in that last game we played.
So
and then the shark ate them all.
That's true. That's what the shark does. In Ecos, the First Continent, you are going to be building, surprise, the First Continent, which is the tile laying portion of this game. You're going to start with a few land tiles, so you've got some grasslands, you've got some deserts, and you've got some water, and there are different types of animals and trees and mountains that can be supported by these different types of terrains. Some animals can only live in the water, some animals can live on water or in certain types of land, some animals need to be by some trees, which you can put onto the board, and all of this is going to be in service of getting points. And the way you're going to be getting points is through a bingo mechanic with the cards that you have in front of you. Everybody's going to start out with a hand of, I think it's 12 cards. And these cards are each going to have some symbols on them. You're going to start with 3 in front of you, and one person is going to be the caller. They have a bag of these sort of Bakelite style tiles that they're going to be pulling one at a time out of, and it's going to have one of the symbols which is on the card. At that point, you have some cubes in front of you, and if you have a card which has the resource that was pulled out, say somebody pulls out the 3 circles with dots in the middle of them, they can take one of their cubes and place that onto the card. If at any point you place the last cube onto the symbols of one of your cards, you say, Eco, like bingo, and then you get to do the things that the card says. It may just be one thing if it is a lower value card or if that's a particularly powerful action, but it may be a series of different things. It may give you additional symbols that you can cover over with your cubes. It may allow you to place some of those animals or trees or mountains onto the board or more land tiles in general. Or it may give you points, or it may do any combination of those things. Once you have completed your card's instructions, you are going to take it and turn it clockwise 1/4 turn. Every card starts with a certain number of leaf icons up at the top. That is the number of times the card will be able to be used in total. So every time you turn it, the number of leaf icons at the top from that side is going to be 1 less until once you have used it the time with 1 leaf icon and you go to turn it again, there will be nothing. Or if it's a 4 leaf icon card, you'll be back at 4 and you're like, hey, that's time to discard this card. You'll discard the card, it will be out of your engine, and you will not have that power any longer. Now, the cubes that you're using to complete these cards are a limited resource. You only have 7 of them to start with. However, if somebody pulls a tile out of the bag and you don't have that icon, or you just don't choose to place the cube for that icon, you can instead turn a little token that you have in front of you, and it's essentially like charging that token. Once it's charged up to 3, you're going to be able to play to draw additional cards, or once it's charged up 4 charges, you can either take a new cube so that you have more cubes to be able to have more things in the works, or you can place a card out in front of you, which is how you are going to be getting new abilities as you get rid of those cards or maybe adding to your engine. Then you're going to return that token down to its uncharged state, and you're going to have to recharge it back up to get another cube or pull or play another card. When the first player crosses the finish line, which is either 60 or 80 points, depending on whether you're playing a short or long game, you're going to finish out the caller's turn. And a caller's turn is ended when they draw the wild token from the bag. There are 2 in the bag, and when you draw the first one out, that ends the caller's turn. You put all the tokens back in the bag, and the bag is passed again. The pool is back to its original state, and everybody knows how many of each token are in the bag, so you can start recounting from there. So anyway, when somebody crosses the finish line, you're going to finish out that caller's turn, and at the end of that turn, whoever has the most points is going to be the winner of Eco's first continent.
And they have made the best first continent.
I mean, we're all kind of making the same first continent. We all put those hippos there.
Yes, and this copy of Ecos was put into our hands as a review copy by not hippos.
No.
Just figure, no, it was the nice people at AEG. Man, so there's a lot of things about this game that I went into really excited about. There's tile laying. There's an engine building mechanic. I get to draw things out of a bag. That sounds like a joke and kind of demeaning, but like these are all things that I really enjoy. I like having that randomness to kind of push your luck, the excitement of pulling things out of a bag, building things with tiles and finding adjacency rules. And like these are all things that are like buzzwords that really, really appeal to me. But I can't get excited about Ecos. I tried, and we've played several games, and we keep bringing it out. It's like, maybe we'll try it this time. It'll be interesting. But every time I play Ecos, I kind of just get about like halfway through it. I'm just like, I'm getting points and I'm doing fine, but like it's not engaging me in any way. I don't feel engaged by this game. Even when I pull off an Ecos, magical collection of things where I'm like chaining 4 or 5 or 6 cards, and then I look down, I'm like, well, I chained a bunch of cards, and that was cool, but I didn't get anything out of it. I put a shark out, and I guess I got like 10 points, so that's a plus.
A 10-point turn in Ecos is actually, for most of the game, a pretty good turn. I hear what you're saying, though, because, like I said, some of those cards are going to give you additional symbols that you can place, and that allows you to do what you were just saying. You can chain cards. I complete this card, so I now can have 2 more wild cubes that I can place to complete another card, and maybe that gives me some waters that I can place to complete another card. But if none of those cards give you points, you get to the end of it, and it's nothing.
Yeah, I just turned a crank real far.
And you used up some of the crank in the process.
Yeah. And I feel like one of my early comments with it was you start with, if you start with the base setup, they have suggested card hands you start with, and you start with like 12 cards, and you start with 3 of them out, and 9 of them you can choose from at any point to, decide to put in whenever you're playing a card. And I feel like you almost have too many starting cards to make it interesting, because I look at like the 9 cards that I've got in my hand and it's like, I have no idea what any of these, what is worth playing first, because I don't really know how this is going to interact with anything else, because we don't have a continent yet. We haven't built anything out. I don't know if I start building this hippos card or this, going for this shark, is this going to even be worthwhile having, because I don't have a clue what this board is going to look like. And that was always kind of a frustration to me. I'm just looking at it like, well, I guess I'll just play a card that helps me build an engine a little bit more. And then, again, I get to that point where I've got 6 cards out and I activate 5 of them at the same time. And I just like, cool, I'm going to do this and this and then turn this and turn this. I'm going to put a mountain here. I'm going to put a shark over here. And just like, and there's no end to the sentence, There's no like, I did this and it got me this. It's more like, I did this and then I sat there. I don't know. That's kind of just how I felt anytime I was playing this game. Like I was just kind of turning knobs.
Yeah, no, I get that. I feel like this game a little bit outstays its welcome. And I am setting aside the time that I played this game incorrectly on one of our plays. You were not in this game, but we were playing where you pull until you get the second wild.
Oh, no.
Which makes this like a 2.5-hour game. Because you're not replenishing that pull bag, and people are essentially just turning their little charge token forever because they no longer have anything that they can put cubes upon.
Yeah.
So that was my error. But even playing this the correct way, where you pull till the first wild, every time we were playing this game, we got about 2/3 of the way through it, and everybody's got 30, 40 points. And I'm kind of done.
Yeah. I don't want this game to be as long as it is. I cannot even fathom a 6-player game of this.
Sick. Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, like
It
we've
does.
played 3 and 4 players, and it chugs along at a pace.
I played 5, but it was the game that we got wrong.
Yeah,
So
but-
that made that game longer as well.
I feel like AEG has this problem where they kind of shoehorn 5 and 6 player counts into stuff. Space Base being one of those that later on became a 5 or 6, and I think Mystic Vale is up to like 8 players now.
Sure it is.
But like they make some games that are very good at 3 or 4 players. But I will never ever consider playing Ecos with 5 or 6. That seems like just like too much time for nothing happening.
That's fair. I feel like every time I've played this game, towards the end of the game, I was putting out cards not necessarily because they were the most useful cards to me, but because they allowed me to use the things that were coming out of the bag most frequently.
Yeah.
Like in our last game, there are more of certain tokens than there are of others. So maybe there's 10 water, but there's only 3 thing that looks like an avocado. And you're going to be getting a lot of water. And if you don't have any cards in your engine that utilize water, again, you're just going to be turning that token to charge it up. And it either gives you more cubes, which if you're not placing the cubes out because you're not getting the tokens is not something you super need, or it allows you to play down a card. Well, if my engine is utilizing this one group of symbols and I don't need the thing that's coming out, I'm probably just going to put down a card to see if I can get some other point thing going on to give myself that boost. And I ended up just placing out cards to try to use what I knew was going to be coming out, not necessarily to maximize my point getting.
Yeah.
Sometimes that worked, sometimes it didn't.
Yeah, and you do have a mechanic to draw, more cards out of a central decks, and they are specifically split up into decks of engine building and point getting, which is good, but sometimes you pull a point getting card and you're just like, this doesn't work with anything that's happening in this game. Like I'll pull up a thing and like, oh yeah, if you have 3 different sections or 3 different groups of bears in 3 different configurations. And I'm looking at it and was like, I don't have time to do this. This is a card that's completely useless to me now.
I have no way to place bears except this card, and by the time I place enough bears with this card, I will have burned out the card.
I'm all out of bears, Danielle. I don't want to be all out of bears.
So lost without bears.
Yeah, we should go get some Baron Parks. But Ecos, there are some fun things in it, and I feel like there is a space in that 3, maybe 4 player range. But anything above that is just it's gonna take way too long. It's gonna outstay its welcome, and you won't get to do the fun parts, which is building that continent and chaining a whole bunch of stuff together. Or you will, and then you'll just find out you did a whole bunch of stuff, and then twisted a bunch of knobs. I don't know. That's where I am on it. Oh, good component quality. The Bakelite tiles for the different, draw out of bag stuff are really nice. I will say the cards are nice. They're square cards. I have kind of a thing for square cards. I think they're fun.
Well, it makes sense because you're turning them, so you want to be able to have cards that are the same shape.
I do really like the land tiles are different heights if they're water or land. I think that's a really neat, unnecessary little touch that the land tiles are a millimeter thicker than the water tiles.
Well,
Kind of a fun thing.
I think it's just because they're not, I don't think there's symbols on them.
No, they're not.
So if you're colorblind, that's going to be an issue.
Yeah, okay.
The land tiles are also double-sided, so your grass and your desert are on the same, and there is a little bit of an art difference between those two.
And, nice little components with the mountains and the trees and all that.
I like the animal trays as well.
Yeah.
Like the animal tokens come in these trays, which you sort them into, and then they're labeled, so you're not trying to find which one is the antelope on these little tiny tokens. They're labeled and sorted out.
I will say the assembly of those trays was really weird. The cardboard wasn't as rigid as it felt like it should have been, so I felt like I was constantly about to tear it as I was folding everything.
I recommend getting yourself a husband who'll do that for you.
All right, well, that is Ecos' first continent, and now, Danielle, it is time to move on to what I am excited to talk about most in the recent plays.
You are excited to talk about Thunder Alley, a 2014 release from GMT Games, which plays 2 to 7 players in 90 minutes. It is designed by Jeff and Carla Horger, and the art is by Roger B. McGowan and Kurt Miller. This is a game of racing. Vroom, vroom.
Listeners of the show will know that I have a penchant for Downforce. I very, very much like Downforce, which is a racing game from Restoration Games.
Very good one.
And I have for the longest time wanted to play Thunder Alley, but it's one of those games that, like, I always see it, I'm just like, I could pick that up, but I could also just not. Or, like, I see it on the shelf somewhere, it's like, I want to learn how to play that, but also I don't want to learn how to play that. I want to be taught how to play that. And this, my friends, is the benefit of your local board game convention. We were at Whose Turn Is It Anyway? And we were just finishing up a game of something, and I turned around and I saw somebody had the Players Wanted sign for Thunder Alley. I turned around and said, "Sir, are you willing to teach me Thunder Alley?" He looked at me and said, "Yeah."
Yeah, it was Shannon who we had played Dice Settlers with the last year, and he's a real nice guy, and he was willing to teach us the GMT fiddly little rules that this game does have a few of.
There are a few little fiddly rules, but I will say, if you know anything about car racing drafting and, just kind of like the mechanics of that stuff in general, it's going to make more natural sense.
Sure.
I will say, obviously, we're going to differ on some of the stuff there. But basically, in a game of Thunder Alley, you have a team of race cars, and you are trying to win said race. You have a board that is a racetrack. It is filled up with little squares for where your cars will go. Everybody has a certain number of cars dictated by player count, and you're going to be moving your cars by playing cards out of your hand. To kind of contrast it with Downforce, in a game of Downforce, you start the game with all of your cards. In a game of Thunder Alley, everybody has access to draw decks, to draw cards, and all of the cards are going to kind of allow you to move a car of your choice in different ways. So to contrast again with Downforce, when you play a card, it moves all of the cars that are listed on that card, however many spaces they are. In Thunder Alley, when you play a card, you're going to choose which car you are activating and move it by a set of rules that kind of determine how that car moves, what kind of drafting you're using, and what kind of following you're using. So for example, if I have a card that is a lead card, a lead drive, I think is what it's called, something like that. Basically, it says I'm going to be leading with 7 spaces of movement with 35 car, so I'm going to move that, and then drafting is going to happen, and if I'm leading, any cards that are directly behind me, however long that chain is, are going to move those 7 spaces as well. If I change lanes, they're going to kind of adapt with that as well. If you're kind of zigging, zagging around stuff. There's also, for being a follow card, that will push the entire group ahead of you, and again, do the drafting thing. There are solo, cards that allow you to kind of split off from the pack. And there's also a lot of kind of specific rules about, like, if you move laterally before you make your forward motion, then drafting doesn't happen in a certain way. Or, if you, merge into a pack, you'll start a group of drafting, so on and so forth. But the game is going to continue to go for 2 laps. Hopefully most, if not all of your cars will finish the race, and then you're going to score points depending on how far you get. Oh, the other thing that's really interesting to talk about with Thunder Alley is that when you play cards, you're going to take wear on different parts of that particular car. You have 3 different kind of repairable wear. You have tires and gasoline and something else, but then you have like body damage and engine damage if you play some of the more powerful cards, which are permanent damage that will stick around the entire game. There's also an event deck you're going to be flipping off of as you're going around the track at certain times that may cause caution flags. It may cause, even a full stop or something like that, giving you opportunities for you to pit your cars and repair some of that damage and kind of restack. If you've ever seen a NASCAR race and you see, everybody goes into the pit row on a yellow flag or something because they're all going to come out and line up for a restart, that kind of mechanic is in there as well. That's kind of as deep as I want to go into it now because we've only played the one game of it. But what I will say off of this is I am, as somebody who has been to a number of NASCAR races, kind of for work, something that I never really thought I would get into, but after seeing it closely and really watching the science and the strategy behind it, Thunder Alley does a really, really awesome job converting that to the tabletop experience in a way more in-depth look of racing than Downforce does.
Well, yeah, I think they're trying to fit completely different niches.
Yeah.
Thunder Alley is trying to do a
simulation of NASCAR.
Yeah, I don't want to say it's a true to life simulation because there's some simplification going on, obviously, but it is a much more simulation style game other than Downforce, which is a broad strokes representation.
Yeah.
Whether you want a simulation or a broad strokes representation has much more to do with how much you care about the car racing, I would assume.
Vroom, vroom. Danielle, how much do you care about the car racing?
I would like to play Downforce. But this game was better than I thought it was going to be. I played this game because you wanted to play it, and I knew it was a great opportunity to have somebody else teach us how to do it correctly. And I would probably do it again, as long as I had somebody who knew how to remind me of the rules, because I'm not going to remember all the little rules on how this works. The board, I will say, does have a really useful chart that remind you of some of the drafting rules and the way that you can move and can't move when you're in certain positions. So I think that was helpful. So I liked it more than I thought I would, but I wouldn't buy it.
Okay. Well, this is one of those games that like I almost always see it on like ding and dent shelves, which is a bummer because
I mean, it's all the car racing. Things are going to get like bumped and scratched.
And like I will absolutely pick this up if I see it on a ding and dent. And realistically, if I find it on normal shelves, I'm highly considering it. It scratches that itch that Downforce does, but in a more technical way, and I just freaking love that. Never mind the fact that there are like bunches of tracks you can get for this, and there's a lot of different things you can do in terms of, you know, like forming car teams and different modes of play, and I just want to see like how it works. It reminds me in a way, like, you know, you said the abstraction of NASCAR simulation, about how Baseball Highlights 2045 first mention kind of abstracts baseball. You're not seeing every single play, you're seeing the highlights. And in Thunder Alley you have this kind of not bird's eye view that you get with Downforce, but like the next level closer where you're seeing like, oh, this guy made this awesome move to get, you know, go around the outside, and then, you know, all these people came in around behind him. Like that seems like a highlight kind of style to me. And with the way you see like, oh, it takes damage, but, you know, you can get a pit stop once maybe if you're lucky. It's that kind of level of detail. It's not, it still felt fast, like racing to me. Like it never felt like it dragged like a Formula Day does. Like Formula Day always felt really slow to me for a racing game, and I don't know why. Maybe it's just because you gotta, you know, shift all your gears and all this other stuff.
Well, you also couldn't, you couldn't pre-plan because you had got to roll a die.
Yeah.
Whereas in Thunder Alley, you have cards at the beginning of your hand, and you know those are the cards that you have the option of using on your cars this round.
Yeah.
So you can look at them while everybody else is taking their go and moving their cars and figuring out whether they can make a lateral movement when they're at this position in the pack with this type of card. And you can be planning, okay, well, if I'm in the lead, this is what I want to do with this.
Yeah.
Is it worth the extra damage? Is it not worth the permanent damage? What does it leave me with? Does it put one of my other cars in an absolute trash position? Is there a chance we're going to get a yellow flag card or whatever? So you have things to be working on while you're thinking about it.
I think that was another thing that I really, really loved about Thunder Alley is that you're playing a team of cars, so you have the opportunity to really set yourself up. And this is, again, something that I saw at NASCAR races. You know, like the Busch team maybe has like 4 or 5 cars out there. Sorry, the Jimmy John's team may have 4 or 5 cars out there, and, you know, you'll see, oh, they're going to, you know, do this to this so Kevin Harvick can get a better spot here. And it's really, really awesome to, like, hear that strategy and then be in playing Thunder Alley and just be like, holy crap, I get to do that thing now. That's so cool that this game planned for that and really kind of appropriately simulates the way that the teams work in a NASCAR race. I'm really impressed with Thunder Alley, if you had not already noticed.
No, you had. I really thought this was going to be absolutely a non-interest point for me.
Yeah.
And I do miss the thing of Downforce, and I don't know why we're making this comparison so strong, and it's partially on me. I'm saying it every time, but I don't have a NASCAR touchstone to draw from, where if I'm not necessarily getting the movement I need from the cars, I can get the points I need from my own intuition of what's going to happen.
Right.
Where in Downforce, like, you can get a good chunk of points just from being like, okay, this car looks like it's winning, but we've used up a lot of these cards and it's going to be absolutely boned at the end of this. I'm not going to bet on that. I'm going to bet on the one right behind that, and hopefully, and you get a whole bunch of points just for guessing right.
Yeah.
In Thunder Alley, you get the vast majority of your points from either winning the race, because the person who actually wins gets 4 more points than the person who comes in second, and then it decreases by 1 point per car. So if you've got like all of your cars in the top 10 and then somebody else has got all their cars in like the middle to bottom, you're absolutely going to beat them. You also get a good number of points from leading laps or leading at the end of every round, I think it is.
Yeah, there's a round leader and then a lap leader, I think.
So that's a good way to get points as well, but there you're only getting like 1 or 2 points as opposed to getting 40 for winning the race or whatever. So you really want to be winning the race in Thunder Alley as opposed to just, you know, cooperating and guessing well.
Well, you know what they say. If you ain't first, you're last.
That's not even true.
All right. Well, that is Thunder Alley, and that brings an end to the recent plays. It's time for us to go to the featured segment.
There's cars in the middle.
No, if you're not first, you're last. That's a very famous quote from the movie Talladega Nights.
Okay, then they are wrong, but it makes more sense now.
And now I've explained that. I'm sorry I've explained the joke. Quickly, to the advertisement break.
Jake, do you like deck builders?
They're fine, but I'm getting bored of building decks for deck's sake. I need something more in my deck builder to really get me excited.
How about a board of hex tiles that you fly your pirate spaceship around, purchasing new cards from different sectors?
That sounds right up my alley for sure, but could I also get some ship-to-ship combat and competing for influence in each sector in an ever-increasing race for better positioning?
I think you'll find exactly that in Tortuga $21.99 on pre-order now from Grey Fox Games.
I bet they'll even include upgraded player tokens and a 5th player expansion to this pre-order. Where can I go to get myself one of these fancy pre-orders?
Go to greyfoxgames.com and click on the banner at the top to get your pre-order now.
I think I might do just that. Grey Fox Games, quality games, cleverly crafted. Pre-orders. And here we are at the other side of the break, ready to talk about Mechanica, a 2020 release from Resonim. It plays 1 to 4 players in 45 to 75 minutes. This is designed by Mary Flanagan, Emma Hobday, and Max Seidman, with art by Anne-Sophie Destur, Cisco Garrido, Mariana Sosa, and Spring Yu. This is a tile placement factory building game about building beep-boop bots.
Yes, in Mechanica, you are in charge of the Tidy Bots factory, and you have to actually create the factory so that you can create some nice little Roomba-esque vacuums and cleaning equipment that are definitely not going to go out and take over the world.
They're fine.
The rulebook makes it quite clear that they are definitely not going to be our new robot overlords.
It's important in this day and age to clarify who the robot overlords are, and these are not them.
I suspect these might be them.
You don't know it yet.
So you are going to be building out your factory board throughout the game. At the beginning, you're going to start with only one basic fabricator, which has a little divot that you're going to place a basic bot token into. Throughout the game, you are going to be selling the bots that you have completed, that you've moved into your trucks at the end of your factory board, and you are going to be buying upgrades to your factory. Now, there are several different types of upgrades. Some may level up your bots from the basic bot to the intermediate orange bot, or perhaps to the advanced purple bot. Some may create more bots from bots that go into them. Some may fling bots down to the other end of the factory, giving you money if they go over any other parts of your factory.
I don't know. I guess you sell tickets to watch the bot fly.
Perhaps. Some may create auxiliary bots whenever things go through them, whenever bots go through them. I'm going to say bots a lot.
Bot.
Anyway, you're going to be buying improvements to your trucks and to your factory and placing them, and they're puzzle piece shaped. And you're going to place them onto your board anywhere that they can fit without, like, puzzle piece ears not fitting anywhere. You are going to then rotate this cool wheel that is in the center of the board. This has the improvements that you're buying for your factory, but it's also got the cost of them. So anything new that comes out goes onto the 7 spot. And then as it sits on the board for longer, every turn it rotates and becomes cheaper. Once you get to the point where you are at the 2 spot, which is the cheapest that you can buy, when you rotate, it will fall into a hole and be recycled for parts. This was actually my non-miniature component of 2019. If you listen to our 2019 review, is this wheel. I just like it a lot. You can also buy the upgrades and not place them into your factory, but use them to recycle them to gain additional bots. Any upgrade that you buy will either give you a medium bot or an advanced bot that you can place into your factory at the fabricator end, so that later you can either use it to sell for money or to complete blueprints. Blueprints require a certain combination of bots. They're essentially order cards from any other game. So they may say you need 2 orange bots and a purple bot, or you need 3 white bots, or whatever. In addition to selling your bots for money on your turn, you may complete these blueprints, and everybody gets a chance to complete the blueprints on the round that they are first completed, and they're going to give you a better value for your bot selling, I guess, your better bang for your bot. But the money that you get from fulfilling the blueprints goes into your vault, which looks like a little cardboard outhouse and sits in front of you. That money cannot be used to buy upgrades or upgrade your trucks or create forks in your factory. It is purely end-game points, because at the end of the game, you're going to be getting points for any money in your vault, any money in your wallet, which is the money that you have free-flowing and can use to buy your upgrades. And you're going to get points for any upgrades that you've placed into your factory, because all the upgrades have a point value on them. Ones that are, a little bit more fancy, maybe 4 points, whereas something just like an additional fabricator at the beginning, or something that just gives you $1 anytime something goes through it, maybe a lower point value. You're going to keep going until you are out of the upgrade tokens that can be placed onto the wheel, and that wheel is empty, at which point you are going to finish out that workday, and whoever has the most money and points in their Tidybots factory will be the last or possibly first to be killed by the robots, whichever they prefer.
I'm really glad you said that, because I was going to make the exact same joke. But, these are good robots. They're just keeping it clean.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm. Mechanica has such a attractive look to it, an attractive table presence, and I feel like talking about the components and just the presentation of this game is a really good place to start.
Sure.
Like you said, the way that the box insert works with that wheel was your non-miniature component of the year last year. Mm-hmm. And it is so unnecessary, but just looks so cool. And it just makes the whole thing feel more whimsical, whimsy factory kind of feel. And I love having that. It's such a fun thing, rather than just being like, advance the trade row and remove one component. You get to turn this wheel, and every now and then a little thing, one of the pieces will fall into the little tub underneath, and you're just like, oh, that was fun. I got to do that thing.
And the game puts itself a little bit away for you.
And a few other things that I think are really awesome about this, the way that the contract cards are stored in the insert as well is, again, so interesting and unique. You turn them off to the side, and they have like a little divot in the insert saying, hey, somebody's activated this one. It's going to clear off at the end of the round if you all don't get to it. That's an unnecessary thing, and I love that. I think it's like so many tiny little touches to the making of this game that are just fantastic.
Yeah, there are a bunch of neat component things. I do want to say about those blueprint cards, they have 2 docks that you're putting the blueprint cards in, but there's an odd number of cards, and that just drives me nuts, because it's 15, so it's not high enough that it's like, oh, just divide them in half. You put 7 in one and 8 in the other. That's annoying. But I like the way that the factories go together as well, because those puzzle piece tiles are there. You don't have to put all of your upgrades going forward. They can be facing up, they can be facing backwards, they can be turned any way that they fit. Mm-hmm. So if you're looking at a piece and you see that it's got like a little ear that's going to go off to the side of the board where it doesn't fit, or where there isn't a point for it to connect into, you can't put it there, but anything else can be done. Mm-hmm. And I think that freedom is really nice. Sometimes you're going to be moving bots from one of your 3 lines in your factory to another one, either because there's not room for them to sit on your board, or because it's going to allow you to use different upgrades. And I like that the pieces really show you where they'll go just by looking at them and going, okay, I know how a puzzle works. Mm-hmm. If I can puzzle it, I can do it.
Yeah, additionally to that, the dual layer player boards, really good quality. I love the overall color palette of this thing. It's very bright.
I love it too.
It's like bright orange and white, and you get this kind of
orange, white, and purple.
Orange,
it's so
white,
nice.
and purple. The goofy aesthetic of the robots. The little robot miniatures are really cool. The basic white ones are just little flat disc, and then the orange ones are a little bit thicker, and then the purple ones are kind of like this 2-tier thing that's got like an extra sombrero kind of hat shape on it. And the thing that I love about this, so all of the robots have little eyes and mouths on them, kind of like the Tiny Dice Buddies line of stuff that we're always talking about. Just a little, cute little thing, but like 10% or like 5% of them have little angry eyebrows on them. And it's such an unnecessary little touch that, given with the kind of tongue-in-cheek robot overthrow, all these Roombas are going to take over someday kind of aesthetic, is just such a cool little thing, and just really just enhances the fun of the game. To the point where anytime I'm playing this game, I kind of make little vroom vroom noises with all my robots going up and down the factory tracks.
Yeah, the blueprints are like that too. The ones that are like 2 white robots, which are the basic bots, they're called like fridge cleaner or floor sweeper, and the ones that are at the end are like assassin bot. if they're too advanced bots
Yeah.
or something. It's like, oh, no, okay, these are not Roombas.
So a lot of fun there. Danielle, you did most of the learning of this game and the teaching of this game. How was the rule book and the kind of teaching and learning curve for you?
Well, I mean, I got a little bit of help. I demoed this game in a full game demo at Gen Con this year, so I got to play through and be taught by somebody who was working for Resonum. And they taught it correctly, so when I went through and I got the game, I got it from a Kickstarter fulfillment, so it didn't come until maybe 6 months later, I want to say. It came at the very end of the year. I did have to go through and reread the book, but the book is fun. It's a very clearly set forward rule book. There is a little bit of a frequently asked questions section that I think you absolutely should read. You should not save it in case you have a question, because it does really clarify a lot of the rules in a way that the rule book doesn't, because it is pared back a little bit. But it is clear. It's easy to find where things are. It's only a couple of pages and everything is sort of blocked out really nicely.
Great.
We often reference the rule book, but it was pretty easy to find almost everything. The only time I couldn't find something was when we were trying to see if there was a rule about something. So looking for the absence of something is always going to take longer than looking for the presence of something.
Oh.
But when there was an answer to be found, I had no problem looking anything up in the rule book. And the rule book is a little fun, and it's got the cute art and everything.
Cool.
It was good.
And it seemed like it was pretty easy to teach anytime you taught?
Oh, yeah. This is not a complicated game. It is really easy to say, okay, we're all going to run our factories at the beginning of the work day, which is the round, together. Everybody's going to take all their bots, and you're going to move your bot from wherever it is to the next divot that has a red circle around it. And that's the way they've indicated where stopping points are, as opposed to exit points of each upgrade. Because, maybe I have an upgrade that allows me to take one bot and duplicate it into 3 of the same bot. So the bot will go and it'll sit into the divot, which has the red circle around it. And then when I use that upgrade, it'll move into the exit bots. And I know those bots are ready to move on the next time I run the factory. It's really simple to show someone they've done the iconography well. And then beyond that, you're just like, okay, if there's a bot in a place and you need to put another bot, you pick which one to keep. It makes it easy to teach it. The rulebook has all of the upgrades explained in detail on the back page. So you just leave it face down on the table. Okay, we got a downgrader. What is a downgrader? Oh, you take this and it becomes 3 of the lower value. Okay, everybody knows now. It's an easy teach.
Yeah, I definitely thought it was easy to learn, the games that we played of this, and felt better about it each time I played it as well, which is good. I felt it was a pretty solid learning curve. You just, each game you learn about what's going to work well next to each other on your little, factory board. What's a terrible thing to put your very first thing, a downgrader, for example. Don't put a downgrader as your first thing, because it's just going to pump in one, basic bot and pump out one basic bot, and you've wasted and ruined your entire first game, Jacob. Why have you done this? But I really felt in the most recent game we played, I got a really, really cool set of components that were really, an interesting way to process the stuff. And I felt like I was being more efficient the more I played this, which is a really good way to feel in a game like this. Moving into gameplay, I think the one thing that I want to talk about most is, do you feel you had control over what could go into your factory? Because this is the question that I had the most, especially when we were playing 2 players. And we talked about this at the very end of the last game. Depending on where stuff came out, if I got all the bot producing things or all the bot duplicating things, then you're sitting over there with, a quarter of the number of total bots that I have, and I can just do literally anything at some point.
Yeah, I think this comes down to a player count discussion. We've played this at 2, 3, and 4, which are the non-solo player counts.
Yeah.
And there is a solo variant, but we've not played it, so I'm not going to talk about it. I don't want to play this game at 2.
Okay.
I would play it at 3, but I'd prefer to play it at 4.
Okay.
At 2, I don't feel like I could really get a hold of things, or if the draws did not come out in my favor. If every time I'm putting a upgrade onto the board, it's something that you can use to create more bots on your turn because you'll be able to buy it. And every time you're putting something out, it's something that requires a bunch of bots to feed into it and maybe produces one higher level bot or something.
Yeah.
I'm not going to want that. So I do think with 2 players, if one person gets better luck, that's a little bit of a game destroyer, I want to say.
Yeah.
But in a higher player count game, there's more chance that different people are going to get those powerful upgrades, or there's going to be fewer things that are left on the board until they can be recycled. Because in a 2-player game, you let a fair number of upgrades that nobody's using go all the way around. And when a piece is recycled on your turn by the turning of the wheel instead of being purchased, you just get a bot. So sometimes, like,
Just
I'm not
free
going to
purple
buy
bot.
that. I'm just going to throw that in there and let it be a free purple bot.
Yeah.
But in a 4-player game, there's more stuff being cycled through, and people are being able to buy more things, and maybe the plan that you had got destroyed by somebody buying it 2 turns ago, so now I need to buy something else that I wouldn't normally necessarily buy. I feel like this is better at full player count.
Okay. So speaking of fuller player counts, you've had a chance to actually play 4. I haven't played 4 players yet.
Oh.
How did it feel to build out your factory at 4 players versus a lower player count game? Like, if you have that much more stuff cycling, by the end of the game, was your factory smaller? Did you have less stuff in it? Or did you have to, like, focus in a different way?
Well, I mean, I think you have less opportunity to let stuff sit on the wheel.
Yeah.
You also play with a few more upgrades in a full player count game. In a
that's
2 or
good.
3 player game, you don't use the extra 6 tiles that are put into the reserve bin. In a 4 player game, you'll use those. So there are 6 additional tiles that are going to cycle through, making the game a little bit longer and giving you the full set of options. Because, I mean, if you have 6 of those tiles pulled out and just by the luck of the shuffle, they're mostly fabricators, then you're getting less bots pumped into the system.
Right.
In a 4 player game, it's much more likely that you're going to get fewer bots from an overactive fabricator, which is something that allows the person who has it in their factory to create a bot, but then they have to give a bot to another player. So you can distribute that a little bit more. But I think overall, the building of the factory felt kind of the same. Like, you're still trying to place your upgrades in a way that you can maximize the amount of bots, maybe get some points without creating a stopping point, because that's the optimization you're really trying to do. You're trying to get as many high-level bots as you can to your trucks with a few stops.
Yeah.
Because every time you have a stop divot, you're essentially keeping it from reaching the point where you can sell it for another turn.
Yeah.
So how do I make the best factory that I can with the fewest amount of steps from the fabricator to the truck? It's a fun puzzle. It's not a complicated puzzle, and since you only have a few pieces available to you at every time, literally pieces, it's not one where you're going to be sitting there for 15 minutes going, oh God, which upgrade do I buy? You see the value of it in points at the end of the game on the tile, because every tile, like I said, is worth points. You kind of see how many upgrades are left in the little reserve. So do I think that I'm going to be able to make this worth my while to buy it? Do I want to make sure nobody else buys it? Which one do I want? Okay, that's what I do. I sell my bots. I upgrade my factory. I make some new bots. Let's do this. Come on. Let's go. It's not a complicated puzzle, but it's an interesting one, I guess.
Yeah. I wonder if after a bunch of plays of this game, I would feel stale with the number of options there are for the upgrades, because there's not a whole ton. You have, basically a upgrader, a downgrader, a few fun ones, and then a few others that kind of convert in different ways. And then there's the gift wrapper or something that, gets you a coin. There's not a ton of different things that come out, which is good in one way because the game can't outstay its welcome if it doesn't have too many tiles. But also at the same point, I wonder if I am going to get bored with that. I'm going to realize, okay, well, this is the way to victory with this particular set of combination, this, particular set of pieces to get where I need to go.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that happening. Having played this game, I want to say more than a handful of times since we've gotten it, but
yeah,
not an exorbitant number of times. I haven't played it 15, 20 times in the last couple of months, but I am kind of being okay, I've seen what this puzzle has to offer me. I don't really need to play it again for a little while, so it is perhaps a bit simple. I don't know if that's something that would be fixed by new or more tiles where you could splice in more options once you get used to what those are.
Mm-hmm.
Or if this is just a simpler, more a lighter weight game, which is possible. I could see the puzzle becoming a little bit samey if you played this a bunch, particularly if you played this at a lower player count.
Yeah. And I also worry if they were to add some expansion content or some new, even promo tiles or something like that, would that dilute what we're already doing with the game, or would it make it too complicated? Because I feel like it's like at the space that it is right now, it's really well balanced. And I feel like it's got a good collection of stuff in there for the level that they are trying to present. And maybe if you got any more stuff in there, it would then be too complicated or too much stuff, or, you know, too many swingy pieces that you could get here and there. And I would say, like, realistically, even at the 2-player game, you know, we had this come up in the most recent game. Whoever produces, you know, whoever gets the overactive production, what are they called?
Overactive fabricator.
The fabricators. Whoever gets the fabricators is going to have a ton of bots. And whoever has the most bots is going to have the most coins, just out of necessity.
Well, the overactive fabricator is an interesting one because it not only gives you a bot, but it gives somebody else a bot as well.
I do really like that.
In
That's
a higher
really cool
player
idea.
count game, that's more valuable to have because you get a bot every time, and one other player gets a bot
Yeah, they get
theoretically
bots.
1/3 of the time if you're doing it evenly.
Yeah.
But in a 2-player game, it's essentially we both get an extra bot every turn, but I had to pay for the fabricator and I'll get the points at the end. So hopefully I didn't pay more than the points are worth.
Yeah.
It's fine. I like this game for the way it does what it does. And I liked at least the first few plays of it. I feel like the spot to be on this game is to be in a game group with somebody else who owns it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that that's a valid point. And all of our friends are in that.
Yeah, and I mean, it is adorable, and I like everybody that I interacted with at Resonim when I was previewing it, so I'm glad I bought the game, because I wanted to support people who are doing interesting and kind of funny, quirky, well-designed products. But I think it's a little less meaty than I want it to be to play it a bunch of times.
Okay.
Like, it is certainly an easy, teachable puzzle game, but I don't feel like it has all of the meat that I want on there.
Yeah, and that's really the kind of gamers that we are right now, too. I would say, you know, for my final thoughts on this, it is fun to play. It's fun to play with the pieces. The production is fantastic, and I think this game is elevated an extra notch by its charm. The charm and the theme and the look of it is really a big plus, and that is something that's necessary to make a okay game worth attention these days. And I feel like what they've done with that makes this game worthy of attention, whether or not it's, again, a game that'll stick around a long time or a game that you'll just have a few plays and then move on from. It really kind of comes down to the weight of play you like to have in your group. And, you know, if this is your kind of in-between heavier stuff filler, then this might be a good shot for some of y'all. So yeah, that's how I'm feeling about it.
Yeah, I will say that you do need to be okay with a little bit of randomness.
Oh, yeah.
Because the blueprints that come out may not be the bots that you've got in your factory. And there's not really a lot you can do with that once they come out, because they're probably going to be gone by the time you retool your factory. So there is a little bit of randomness. So if you want like a lighter weight, it's not really a simulation at all. It's a factory building game that's got a little bit of randomness that is adorable. This might be the one for you.
Cool. Well, that is Mechanica. And now it's time to go to the beer section of the show, where we talk about beers that Danielle has found to pair with Mechanica. For more information on the beers we chose to pair with today's game on tap, check out the show notes section at our website, draftmechanic.net.
So as we were just saying, our on tap is for Mechanica, which is a 2020 release from Resonim, which plays 1 to 4 players in 45 to 75 minutes. The designers are Mary Flanagan, Emma Hobday, and Max Seidman. The art is by Anne-Sophie Destur, Cisco Garrido, Mariana Sosa, and Spring Yu.
All right, first up, we have a local brewery for us, a Wooden Robot Brewery even, in Charlotte, North Carolina, has Bot Beer. It's a farmhouse ale, 5.4% ABV, blonde ale inspired by Belgian farmhouse ales with fruity and spicy character.
Who's to say the Roombas aren't wooden? We don't really know.
I'm guessing you pretty much just like, this is the very first thing you pulled up. You're just like, I want to look at all the Wooden Robot beers.
I mean, it's very difficult not to immediately bombarded by them, because I did look up the word robot, and Untappd doesn't sort out brewery names. So.
They are right here.
Yes. Next up, from Gamma Brewing Company in Gurlos, region Hovedstaden, Denmark, we have Vacuum, which is an American IPA and 6.2% ABV. It's an IPA brewed with Mosaic, Columbus, and Euconaut, which used to be called Equinox hops, It is available in 16-ounce cans, and apparently there was a little bit of a legal battle that nobody wanted to really specify about Equinox hops, so if you are a fan of them, they're now called Euconaut.
I did
Or
not.
Econaut. Econaut.
I did not know that was a thing. And now I know that. Ooh. Maybe we'll...
Also, I do want to say, if you want to look up the logo for Gamma Brewing Company, it is a very pleasing logo.
Next up from Fieldwork Brewing Company in Berkeley, California, we have Good Clean Fun. It's an American IPA, 6.8% ABV, a West Coast IPA, in fact, brewed with Simcoe and Citra hops, and it's decidedly not hazy.
Yeah, the description of this from the brewery is almost a little bit angry about the fact that people are all about hazy IPAs right now, and they had a hashtag haze is not flavor, so they made this beer that is not a hazy IPA at all, but it is a delicious sounding IPA.
It's got Citra, I'll drink it.
Next up from Cold Harbor Brewing in Westboro, Massachusetts, we have Sweeper, a double IPA, which is 8.6% ABV. This is a double IPA brewed with Citra and Galaxy hops. Galaxy hops put a pin in them. We'll be talking about them soon, and it is available in 16-ounce cans.
Number 5 on the list is from Stillwater Artisanal in Brooklyn, New York. This is Ready Made, Vacuum. It is a smoked beer at 8% ABV, brewed with a combination of smoked caramel and roasted malts and piney, dank, and dark fruit hops. This was bottled, but it's Stillwater Brewing, so it's hard to tell if or when, again, it will happen, because that's just kind of their whole thing. They just brew beer sometimes, and if you're lucky, it's the one you want, but it might not be. But maybe this one. All right. Well, if you would like more information on those beers, including links to their possibly functional websites, you can go to our website, draftmechanic.net, and click the show notes tab up at the top. Or if you want, you can go to boardgames.beer, which is easier to remember and an actual human website that I pay real earned money for.
It's not a human website. Getting a little too robot overlord on me there.
Okay. It's an actual website that I pay real human money for. How about that?
There you go.
Boardgames.beer. Why? Listeners out there, has anybody actually used boardgames.beer because they could not remember our website? If so, I would love to hear about it in the Slack or on the Guild. Because please justify me having purchased boardgames.beer. It's very funny.
I think you justify that to yourself.
Danielle, justify the existence of Galaxy hops.
No. Like, they're hops. I don't need to justify them, but I will tell you about them.
Not my best segue.
First, let's talk a little bit about hop farming in Australia, because I've talked about hop farming in Europe at some point on this, and I've talked about hop farming in the Pacific Northwest a ton, because we talk about the hop breeding program up there. But we have to talk about Australian hop breeding.
That just reminded me, how excited are you that Uwe Rosenberg is doing a game about hop farming?
I'm very excited about it.
Okay, we'll be back to that in a few months.
Yes. It's called Hallertau.
I'm so excited.
Anyway, Australian hop farming. Focus, please. The father of Australian hop farming is James Squire. He came to Australia in 1788 after stealing his neighbor's chickens in England. You do remember it was a penal colony, right?
Yeah, but I wasn't prepared for that particular kind of crime.
Well, he had previously been convicted of highway robbery, so I guess they figured before he went back to highway robbery, they'd get him out on the chickens thing.
Oh, God. That's fantastic.
Oddly enough, when he was in Australia, he stole some, I think it's called like...
Emus?
No, he stole some like herb that's used for bittering in beer.
Okay.
And they gave him a reduced sentence of 150 lashes, which doesn't sound terribly reduced to me.
He stole more stuff, so they reduced
While he was in prison.
Okay.
In Australia. I don't know. Australia. It's wonderful.
Carry on.
Anyway, after they freed him in 1792, I guess the chicken sentence wasn't terribly long. He was given 30 acres and began buying up all the plots around him for like $1 a piece.
Holy
until he had
moly.
1,000 acres.
This guy is amazing.
Yeah, at which point he started a hop farm and he opened the Malting Shovel Tavern to sell the beer to anybody who was wandering by that he made with the hops that he grew. The current leader in hop production in Australia is Hop Products of Australia, which controls about 90% of the Australian hop production, and they actually still run Bushy Park Estates and Rochetrevor Hop Gardens, which have been operating since before 1866 and are two of the oldest continually operating hop farms in the world. In the mid-90s, Hop Products of Australia started a breeding program to develop hops with high alpha acids, but some European hop traits. Galaxy was developed from a female plant called J78, and we've talked about like experimental hop names. They're just letters and numbers, which was from the Pride of Ringwood hop varietal, and a male from the German Pearl hop varietal. The breeding began in 1994, and in 2009, after trials, they released it for commercial use. If you've listened to some of these timelines on the other hop primers, that's about right. It takes a minute for hops to get out of the experimental stage into commercial use because they have to grow them and then grow them on larger plots of land and then grow them on slightly larger plots of land. This James Squire guy would have just planted 1,000 acres worth of hops on one go, but we don't do that anymore. And then they send them to breweries and they try them out a little bit, and then a few more breweries try them out, and finally they sell them for money. Anyway, 2009 they were commercially available. Galaxy has a very high percentage of essential oils, which makes it super fruity and excellent as an aroma and flavor hop. And it has flavors of passion fruit, clean citrus, peach, pineapple, and tropical fruit. It is not piney, spicy, or floral, and it is especially good for dry hopping because when you add it in that late, it preserves a lot of that oil's character. You're not changing the oil's flavor in any way, so you get this really, really fruity essence of the Galaxy hop. It's also 11 to 16% alpha acid, so you can use it to bitter really well as well, and that's what this Australian breeding program was trying to do. They were trying to get a high alpha acid hop in the first place, and they just ended up with this amazing super fruity thing. Between 2015 and 2016, the amount of farmland in Australia dedicated to Galaxy increased by almost 50%, but due to abnormal weather in that season, there were still reduced yields. However, the next year, the amount that was predicted to be harvested was already in allocation before the growing season was going. I usually at this point will talk about beers that are entirely made with this hop and ones that are made with this hop and another hop. The thing that was stated as being all Galaxy that I was most confident as saying was probably all Galaxy is Galaxy White IPA from Anchorage Brewing Company. A lot of the other beers that I found that were listed as being all Galaxy, when you went in and read other descriptions, they're like made with Galaxy and El Dorado, and I was like, no, you've lied there. So if you're looking for something that is all Galaxy, first off, if you have a local brewery that's doing what they call a smash beer, single malt and single hop, that is a great way to go. That will be only Galaxy hops if it's a Galaxy smash. So give that a go. But if you want something that is very predominant Galaxy, the Galaxy White IPA from Anchorage Brewing Company might be a way to go. My recommendation that immediately jumped to mind when I thought of a beer that was a Galaxy beer was Galaxy Hero from Revolution Brewing. This is part of their Hero IPA series. It was available in the 12th incarnation of their larger, or maybe the 8th incarnation, whatever the most recent one, of their Hero 12-pack box where they give you Anti-Hero and 3 other varieties.
Right.
Galaxy Hero was one of them, and it does come around again. This is made with Galaxy hops, but also Zythos hops. But it's real good. I like Galaxy Hero a lot. It's one of my favorite heroes. And if you want to give it a go, this might be a beer you could try. It's pretty readily available in 12-ounce cans from Rev in Chicago.
James Squire's Wikipedia page is buck wild, and I love it. He was an extremely enterprising man, and by mid-1800, he had 10 sheep, 18 pigs, and 35 goats.
No chickens, though, I noticed.
He eventually became a constable.
Well,
and
yeah.
upon his passing, had the largest funeral of anybody in the colonies, because everybody was so excited about how good of a brewer he had become, and like a respected member of the community.
I mean, he owned 1,000 acres of land. You gotta give that man some authority. I would think he owns most of the area he lives in.
That's wild. And he gave us Galaxy hops.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Well, sort of.
Yeah, ish.
He gave us the Australian hop breeding system. So.
I'm all for that. All right. Well, for more information on all those things, you can obviously go to the show notes section of our website, draftmechanic.net, or boardgames.beer, where Danielle will put links in the show notes for you, dear listener. Yes, you, listening right now.
Okay.
And after this break, we're going to come back and hit the gargantuan final round topic, where we asked our listeners how they call their collection, and we're going to cull this. I changed a few words around to make it fit, but, there's no culling. Keeping all the words in the final round after the break. Please come join us at Proto ATL, April 30th through May 3rd in Atlanta, Georgia. Proto ATL is a game event dedicated to all aspects of game design and the business of board games. Attend in-depth seminars about design, marketing, crowdfunding, and contract law, or spend your time demoing your games to publishers and industry professionals. Join special guests Kathleen Mercury and Nicole Fend for their insightful look into the game industry. Forge friendships and make valuable connections by participating in special events, like an escape room and a cocktail hour mixer. The Proto ATL team is building something special, and they want you to be a part of it. Tickets are $60 for designers and $20 for playtesters, both of which make you eligible for game giveaways. For more information, check out www.protoatl.com or look up the Proto ATL Facebook page. All right, here we are in the final round where we ask our Slack and Guild members to chime in on a topic of our choosing.
You remembered to ask the Slack channel this time.
Yay. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Anyway, the topic we ask about this time: how do you cull and control your collection? Do you have a hard limit, or do you just cull when you feel like it? How do you decide if a game makes the cut or gets cut? And what do you do with your games when it's time for them to move on? Danielle, will you start us out?
Sure. Stewie said, I buy games. All of them. I'm a curator now. No sell. I have, however, slowed down from buying games, and I don't look at the hotness without a lot of review.
Dangerous. I understand. Up next from Will Foy, this is a thing I had to think about having moved last year into an intentionally smaller space. It's not a count limit, it's a space and desire to move stuff limit for me. Cull decisions based on what I think I'm going to play and continue to want to own myself. Culled games go to BGG trades, random math trades, friends, Goodwill, or a library of some kind. Side note, your local public library might have or might welcome having a game collection. The game cave here is near to bursting. In fact, I made a list of candidates to evaluate just yesterday, as of when he wrote that.
I don't need to hear the word candidates today. Thank you.
Fair. Next up.
BJ from Board Game Gumbo said, I love my games with the heat of 1,000 suns and will only let them leave my sight when they pry my fingernails out of the wet cardboard stained from my tears of sadness. Also, I donate some to our local con library, give them to friends, and use con trading selling lists to help me move them. Hopefully those are not damp and full of fingernail impressions.
Yeah. That's how much can he cry if he's dampening the cardboard that much? BJ, do you need a hug? I'm going to give you a hug next time I see you. We'll make it happen. Sam Hillier says, I love talking about culling, but I'll try to keep it brief here. So you culled your response? Yeah? Yeah.
Huh.
I aim for a compact collection where I know the rules for all my games and have an active interest in playing anything on my shelf. Right now, that's about 35 games, but that's not a hard cap. I like a smaller collection to avoid the anxiety and guilt of owning too many games that don't get played nearly enough. I know how that feels. Plus, having a smaller collection avoids the paradox of choice. I genuinely love all of the games on my shelf, and if I don't, they get culled or at least packed away into storage. I also follow the rule of asking, would I play this game over this other similar game? If the answer is no, it's gone. That is a good point. Like, do you feel if you have two games that are similar enough, is it worth keeping both? And stuff that springs to mind is like Fields of Green and Among the Stars, which is probably a bad example because you probably want both of them gone because they're big square card games.
I like Among the Stars.
Oh, okay.
No, I feel like if there is a reason in our game playing life, if it works for specifically the game nights we host, or if a certain portion of our group really likes to play this game and I prefer this other one, yeah, okay. If I have them both already, I'm not going to go buy them for this reason, but if I already have them,
yeah,
that's fine to keep. But if they aren't anything special, if they're similar and I just want something that fills that niche, then I'll take the one I like better.
Yeah, fair.
Chris Whitpan from Game All Night Show says, I keep my collection to full shelves. As new ones come in, a pile builds up, and those become sale trade donation piles. I assume he means like he takes ones off of the shelves, not like he just takes the new games and puts them in a donation pile.
It's like, I'm done. My shelves are full. Games can't come off.
But
all
I
the
keep
new games.
buying them.
I just like economies. Jeff says, I try to stick with one Calyx shelf. I seem to be hovering around 50 games. I try to get expansions for good games to have several options and keep playing them to keep them from going stale. If I find any of my games are not getting played, I will take it out and play to see why. If I just forgot about it and missed it, it stays. If I'm reminded why it's sat, it's on the hit list. The games on my hit list, I math trade away, or I sell at a local game sale that happens twice a year. Another thing that keeps my collection size down is I know exactly what style of game will get played in our game group, and I only acquire the games that fit into this style. I have 9 games with over 20 plays and another 6 games with over 10 plays. One of my games I have played 86 times. That's amazing.
Is it a solo game? Because I feel like that's cheating.
Or like a really 5-minute game. Like we've probably played 86 games of nothing.
I mean, if it's just a 5-minute game, a session counts as a play, my dude.
Fair. All right, next.
Danny Doherty says, I try to maintain a strict 1-in, 1-out policy. For every 6-pack of beer I put in my fridge, I need to be drinking at least 6 beers. This helps keep things fresh and naturally manages skunkiness in anything that might have lingered.
That made me so happy. Danny, you won the final round. Hands down. Paul Imboden says, I started with a 1 bookshelf limit. That became a 1 calyx limit. Now it's a 1 bookshelf and 1 calyx limit. Plus the top of each of them. Plus a separate bookshelf for the RPGs. Yeah, I need to donate. There's 3 main categories of games on my shelf. Favorites that get regular play, the small weird games that deserve more love and I won't be able to find once I let go, and old favorites that I want to keep for that once-a-year experience. I need to look at what doesn't fall into those camps and either donate them to the gaming hoopla, give them to families and or hospice centers, or just trade them away. Unplayed copy of Tricarion, I'm looking at you. And he also gave a charitable plug alert, the Gaming Hoopla, which take place each year in Mundelein, Illinois, which is a northwestern Chicago suburb. It's a great place to auction off underloved games and other things and get a decent tax write-off in the process. All proceeds go to 2 worthy causes, gamers and cancer research and care. The Gaming Hoopla is coming up. I think it's April. And if you are in that area, I super encourage everybody going. I inexplicably had a chance to go to it last year, and I enjoyed the absolute heck out of it. And I went to that particular game auction, and that's where I got that copy of Twixt. I'm very happy about that.
Now, I keep noticing that people are saying 1 calyx, but they don't say what size calyx. There's a 1x4 calyx, or there's a 5x5 calyx, there's a 2x4, or there's a 4x4. Like, you need to specify your calyx, because he's like, there's 50 games on my calyx. I was like, that's not a 5x5 calyx unless you are very bad at storing your games.
It's probably a 2x4.
I would assume so as well, but I mean, there's a big difference.
How many calyx do we have in this house?
Let's not think about it.
Yes, they're also amazing for storing records, which are in the room we record in. Here they are. I'm pointing at them on this audio medium.
Frankie
Danielle,
LaFave says, I'm doing my first cull, actually. My collection has just gotten too large for our apartment. I don't have a hard number in mind, just looking to get rid of games that don't get played often enough for them to be taking up space. This cull was actually spurred on by a local convention I'm going to. Props to Granite Game Summit. That's having a virtual flea market on BGG. What better way to get rid of games and to get a few bucks for them, am I right?
And finally, we close out the final round, as we do, with Patrick Hillier's words of wisdom. I'm a collector. I like having stuff, weird vintage stuff, different versions of the game, etc., so I don't really cull. Still, my shelves are starting to go 2 layers deep, and I realize I really have some things I do not need to keep, but I'd rather hold them than deal with getting rid of it. When I do cull, I just give them away to charity auctions, convention libraries, or friends. For example, last Christmas, my pals posted pictures of our cull piles and offered them to each other for free. When I get involved in math trades or virtual flea markets, it does get unplayed items out of my collection, but it brings new things in. I'm not sure that's the point of this discussion. See, I posted a game on the Granite Game Summit flea market, and now I see all of Frankie's stuff, and I want to buy it. If you're willing to come to my house, you can have a game or 12 for free.
You can also pet his very cute cats.
He does have good cats. All right, well, if you are interested in joining in the final round in the future, please do so on the Slack or on the Guild. And I do have an interesting final round question for you that will relate to something that I'm about to read right now. We had a response on our most recent Guild episode that kind of was a talk back about our discussion about Isle of Cats and how I wanted to like house rule out the card play or something. Kevin Ruland, longtime listener, first time commenter, said, He wanted to reply to my comments on Isle of Cats. They played wrong, but delightfully wrong. And after some discussions, they decided they liked their house rules. So they play the card phase, kind of what I was talking about. You bid for turn order with your baskets and your boots. And then any baskets on those cards are available to use later. Lesson phase still happens normally where you're playing out your lesson cards. And then the capturing cat phase is where they really deviate from the rules. They catch a cat using the baskets on turn order cards or using permanent baskets. But you also can play the treasure cards out of your hands to get treasures, and you can even play 1 or 2 basket cards additionally from your hand to capture cats. So you're still doing one action, play is passing around the table, and if you pass, you are out for the round. So it adds a little more strategy for playing those action cards, which allows for more cats to be added to the field. So again, that's kind of what I was talking about. I would love to see those things merged into one thing, which got me thinking, what game do you have a house rule for? Is it something that changes the way the game plays a lot? Is it something you just did accidentally once and it just kind of stuck? Or is it something that you found that was just that missing piece into a game that you really, really wanted to do? And also, do you just hate house rules? Or do you just hate playing games in houses? Do you have yard rules? Or, I don't know, public space rules? Wherever you play your games. Have you made up rules for your games, basically, what I'm asking you? So that's the question. Feel free to...
I've got my answer.
Is it no?
No, it's...
Save it for the Slack or the next episode.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Well, we will be back in that particular episode, but you can obviously go to boardgames.beer or draftmechanic.net to find the Slack and the guild to jump in on that final round. And if you're looking us up on the internet, you can obviously go on social media for @draftmechanic. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are the places.
We've also got a Board Game Geek guild. That is guild number 2470. If you are in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, we will be at Good Road Cider Works on Thursday, March 5th, and at Salud Cerveceria on Tuesday, March 24th, not Tuesday, March 17th.
Yes.
That is a change from the last episode where I said we would be doing St. Patrick's Day because I was optimistic for once.
Yeah.
There's a lesson about that.
Feel free to go to Salud on St. Patrick's Day, though, because it is still going to be fun. It's still a good place to go. Just know what you're getting into. Not board games.
Draft Mechanic is sponsored by Grey Fox Games. Visit greyfoxgames.com and sign up for their newsletter for the latest. Grey Fox Games, quality games cleverly crafted.
I knew I forgot something. So, as always, I would love to remind you, once again, please game responsibly, and we'll see you back here in 2 weeks for another round. How was that? Did I do okay?
Night.
Good night. Draft Mechanic episode 118 was recorded on Tuesday, March 3rd, 2020 in front of a live studio cat. What a cutie. He's taking a nap.
Beauty is in your eyes, you are the beholder. You render me stricken. Do not go gently into that gutter line.
Hey, Board Gamers, BJ from Board Game Gumbo here, back with more Louisiana flavor. Tonal, we love talking board games. That's why we started up Gumbo Live, the #1 Facebook Live talk show dedicated to board gaming. Each week, we interview guests from your hobby, publishers, designers, content creators, and you get to ask them whatever you like. It's a live show. So join us at Board Game Gumbo on Facebook every Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. Central for another episode of Gumbo Live. And until next time, laissez le bon temps rouler.
Punchboard Media,
where we all
bring something
to the table.
Pull up a chair
At punchboardmedia.com.